Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Good morning. How's it going? Well, we've got some data today, don't we? Let's see here. Bum, bum, bum. Why is Forex factory? No. Let's just take down the shields. Because it doesn't want to seem to show me the whole week for some reason. And it's showing me all the currencies and all this crazy stuff. Okay, so Wednesday, we've got PPI. We are looking for a reading of 0 versus a previous reading of 0.2 for the month-over-month reading, and a core PPI of spot 2 versus a previous reading of negative spot 1. Well, I have a suspicion that it is not going to be 0. I think it's going to be more than 0. And if it's more than 0, given their propensity to sell yesterday, we might have a pretty good sell today. To the charts. Make it big for you. You can see a huge move down in the ZB. The ZN, big move down. The yield curve has completely reversed. I can't use this F button because there's this profile. But here's the thing. That was a pretty ugly down move yesterday. There is still a level down here at 129.12 that they could go for. There's definitely some volume in through here though, so around here to 18.5, all the way through here is an area that they could trade around in. And then there's this 24 area, and there's all the way down here to this 127.16 area. So yeah, if we're really unwinding, selling, this could get extremely ugly. There could be a lot more downside. E-mini, little bit of a buy overnight, but they actually sold yesterday. There was a sell, and then they recovered, but mostly unchanged. But there has been some kind of things going on under the surface. There's been some rotation. Some names are going down, and some names are going up. There's been a big rotation. And this rotation correlates very strongly to companies that do well with bonds versus don't do well with bonds. And so the market seems to be predicting that rates are going to continue to move up, which is obviously not what Donald Trump wants to see. In fact, I think he was tweeting here, if I can see here. I'm scrolling down. Big night. The Federal Reserve should get our interest rates down to 0 or less, and we should then start to refinance our debt. Costs could be brought way down, while at the same time substantially lengthening the term. We have the great currency power and balance sheet. The USA should always be paying the lowest rate, no inflation. It is the only the naivety of Jay Powell and the Federal Reserve that doesn't allow us to do what other countries are already doing. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that we're missing because of boneheads. Well, it looks like you're going to miss the opportunity, potentially. Which sucks, but I mean, he's right that we could have lower interest rates. But at what cost? And that's the thing that kind of bothers me about this whole situation is I don't think that what's going on in Europe is good. I don't think that negative interest rates is a good thing. I mean, it's good for everybody that has exposure to interest rates, but I don't think it's a positive for the economy because, in general, that basically means that more money is being transferred from the private sector to government. And that means lower growth. So I don't think you want the negative interest rates on. Anyways, I see Lucas. We reversed an entire month of overall uptrend in 4 days. Yep. Well, I don't know if it was, I mean, it was a whole. It's more complicated than that, surely, right? I mean, that whole month of uptrend was mostly, just from a few days. Still, it's just that we got one, two, and then this third one was probably a relatively large day. So I don't know. The velocity of it is much higher for sure. I guess the only thing I'm trying to say is like, um, I wouldn't look at that and say like, oh, okay, they're overextending to the downside, right? Everything looks like fairly priced here, and more downside would be completely, um, would be completely within the range of possibilities and fair price. Yeah. I need to fix this. We're gonna fix this, okay? Um, we got 4 minutes. App.js. Okay. Here, if is busy equals false, and msg dot channel equals stream. I think. Okay, restarted. Nope. Is it? Do I need a hash in it? Hmm. Hmm. All right. Well, we'll do that. We're gonna have to change it. Put it over here. But we got about a minute 30 seconds until the news. So okay, here we go. Remember, we're looking for a core number of spot 2 and the X energy number. So, sorry, the X energy number is 0.2 and the other one is 0. Okay, so here we're getting quite a bit of clickiness and moving down. Okay, it was spot 1 versus 0.
Twitch, Barry Bebenson 5, https://www.youtube.com/watch?v=y9zx62lzd2c.
And we also need to add in a filter in there to not read URLs, don't you think? I think so. Okay. Gosh dang.
Twitch, Barry Bebenson 5, lol the voice message.
Right, it's pretty hilarious. We still got to iron out some bugs in the robot. It's reading some. It reads out of the Discord, so it reads some messages that we don't want it to read, and so forth. Okay, so the core PPI was actually spot 3 versus spot 2, and then the PPI was spot 1 versus 0.
Twitch, Barry Bebenson 5, gotta put more oil in the robot.
Yeah, I just need to put, like, the first thing I need to do is I need to put a thing in there. Okay, so there was a big iceberg there. They kind of turned around there for no reason too, which is interesting. I'm surprised they are able to pop up more as much as they did, but I'm gonna might be getting an overextension to the upside though. So I'm just gonna let it do its thing.
Twitch, Barry Bebenson 5, this literally looks like gibberish to me.
Literally looks like gibberish. Wow. The way that we're trading is extremely what is the word that I should be using here? It's a way that not a lot of people want to trade because it's complicated and it's hard to learn. But when I say that it's complicated, it's not necessarily complicated to explain to you what you're looking at. It's just complicated to explain to you how to make your decisions off of it, right? So what you're seeing here is these blue columns are people with limit orders out on the exchange to buy that product. And the red column are limit orders out on the exchange to sell that product. So you can see 1,000 people are looking to buy at 29.5. They want to buy at that price. And the way that the prices go, that's probably the most confusing thing to people. Is it's like bonds are divided by 32 points. So it goes, so you can see here when it goes 30, 30 half, 31, 31 half, 0, half, 1, 1 half, 2, 2 half. Okay. And each one of these is the minimum, call it a tick, the minimum amount that it moves. And then this column in the middle is market orders hitting it. So you can see here, it only took 880 market buy orders to buy out all of the sellers at 30 and move price up. And that's it. That's all there is to it. Now, how we use that information to make predictions on price is a little bit more complicated. Okay. So something that I'm seeing, for instance, right now is we just downticked. They sold 1,580 contracts, but they were only willing to offer 400 when they downticked. Now they've ticked back up on 600 and they're only willing to offer 300. So this 30 price is what I call a balanced price, which is to mean that there are people willing to bid or offer at that price. There are both bidders and offers at that price. Well, we're definitely got in on the wrong spot. That's okay. I tried to take it as best as I could. Did go 3 ticks in my favor. Picked a wrong spot. Would just probably stop out of this and wait for a normal signal. So let's try that. Fix the bot. Do that, and then I say test here.
Test.
Ha. It's a number. It's not a channel name. And it's in brackets. That's why it didn't work. Well, I didn't get stopped out. That's interesting.
Test.
Yes. Okay. Control X. Get rid of that.
Test.
Excellent. And if I come down into here, cool. No message. Fixed it. Good job. Okay, so now what we see is that they sold 2,273. They offered 1,000. And now that this 295, there used to be 2,000 bid there, but now there's only about 1,500 or so. So I don't know if Barry's still there, but basically what that means to me is that there's a little bit more sell pressure here. Oh my. So now there's somebody willing to buy it here at 29 because it's taking a lot more contracts to push through
YouTube
here
wrong
than was shown.
ZH mornings.
Good morning, wrong. This is a pretty big iceberg at 29. So when you get an iceberg, that means there's a lot of buyers at that price, a lot of passive buyers at that price. Now, if you're able to get a lot of active sellers to sell through all of those buyers, and very oftentimes you do, because it kind of turns into like the buyers aren't going to buy it at 29 half, they want it at 29, and they're just going to wait until they get filled. So if you're able to get enough market sellers to go through them, then you end up in a situation where there was a lot of buyers here, but then there's less buyers here and here. And so if the momentum can continue, we can go through the price for at least 2 ticks. But they didn't get through the iceberg that time, and so we ticked up. Okay. All right, so that time they were able to sell through the 29. Um, Now there's still buyers, but it's not an iceberg, right?
YouTube, wrong ZH. What you view on Treasuries, Seth.
What's your view on treasuries? Well, I mean, they're selling it. I don't know if I can say more than that. It seems to me like that now that um, people are more optimistic on a possible trade deal again, that almost all of the risk premium that was placed on treasuries is coming out. And if that is truly the case, and we're going to completely retrace this whole thing, then there is still much, much more selling to come. In fact, it's so much that I think that if this continues, that it could start to cause shock to the markets, the higher interest rates. You're going to get what they call VAR shock, which isn't good, but it is what it is, and I suppose that they can handle it if it happens, and not the end of the world sort of a thing or anything. I guess is my point. Overnight action on the EU side shows a lack of appetite for risk. It seems done waiting for the ECB, so could see a consolidation today or a limited leg down and reverse. Could be. I think that's a reasonable assessment. I think they will probably continue to sell today, but it might be a little bit slower or not as much as yesterday. And that's largely dependent on what the mini decides to do. I should mess with that later. I want to make sure that if it detects a URL that it doesn't read the URL. But maybe there's some properties that I can pass into the request to Google. The equities are actually moving a little bit around here too, aren't they? They've moved 8 ticks. Tick up. I'm starting to get a little bit of mm, I'm having a hard time with words today, guys. What's my deal? Am I just being slow? I don't know. I feel like that we're seeing a slight increase in activity within this range, and that there's a possibility that they try and break out on one direction or the other. It's hard to predict which direction they're trying to move it, but so YouTube has this new thing called the stream room, and when you come over and you look at it, it wants me to create a new stream even though I've already started a stream. So it's like completely useless. Just wanted to share that. Hmm. It's kind of interesting how it came back so much and then it balanced at 29.5. I mean, I took 29 because I saw some attempt to hold it there before it was moving down. So I had a good spot, but it's interesting. Maybe it was a good spot, but it's just interesting that when they came back that they're above that price. I don't know if that means anything or not. It could mean something because a lot more is traded at 30 and 30 half just because of action from the overnight. Was Dan Bishop in North Carolina down in the polls last night? Let me see. Strong downtick. And they're hitting into 29 too. But they're still not just going. Election. Where was it again? North Carolina. Hmm. I don't get any polls when I search for that on Real Clear Politics. Maybe 538 has something about it. Hmm. So that's not entirely accurate what he says. From what they said on 538 before, they had four polls. One gave One was 46-46. It was even. Then there was one that was 44-49 for the Democrat. Then one that was 46-45 for the Republican. And then there was another one that was even. Okay, so they finally went offer 29, but they're only offering 200 contracts there. So they're still not. Okay. Oh, now they're hitting into 29 and they're holding it and pulling it. And a lot of clicks on the down tick too, which means that the liquidity is moving with it. Interestingly enough, the 5 year has not dropped out. Okay. They've made 38 and 3/4 go offer, but it's not. It's not trading 30 half. So that's interesting. 2 contracts hit 30 half. But look at that. Oh, I did not see that. So there was a ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay. So they were holding really hard at 30 and 3/4, 3K. Then at 31, they were able to tick up and through it, but there was 6,000 contracts holding there at 31 going short. So somebody in the 5 year went very, very much so short. They ticked up above it, and then when they ticked back down, they did so extremely quickly, and now 30 and 3/4 is gone. So this is probably going to run. This is probably going to run for a few because somebody just got trapped big time.
YouTube, algo lover, GM winking face.
Look at that. Oh, how's it going, Algo Lover?
YouTube, algo lover, ZN below 130.045 targets 129, 220 nerd face.
Below 130.045. Oh, which we're definitely below. 22. Well, that where does that put us? We're kind of in this spot where I have to look so far back. Sure. Yeah. Oh. So question, Algo, does that have anything to do with the notch and the longer term volume profile? That price? Or is it just a coincidence that there's a low volume node at 22? If I look at like the past 90 days or whatever. Kind of wondering though. Okay, so the 5 year is telling me that it is now that we're down here at 30 that they're trying to work it. There's also this big old bid here at 26 half. That hasn't been there for that long either. It's actually shown up as we've moved down, which is interesting.
YouTube, algo lover, not for me, I don't really let MP guide a trade. Okay hand.
Okay. Has nothing to do with the market profile.
YouTube, algo lover, 8:18 a.m. algo lover, S. If buyers maintain their bid above 2,972 ONL, then 2,992.50 target. If 2,972 breaks before that target trades, then anticipate a deeper pullback nerd face.
Well, that's interesting because that's where we were taking our trade yesterday, huh? 29.72. Hmm. So that time they hit into 27 pretty hard. 3,000, and then it goes offer 1,000, and they're hitting 26 half now a little bit, just a little trickle into it. The 5-year starting to hit, starting to sell pretty hard.
YouTube, algo lover, I'm falling in love with this lady bot face blowing a kiss.
She sure sounds nice, doesn't she? Now they're absorbing a decent amount at 27 as well. 2,300. They're still able to offer out 1,000. Now they're going to stack over 2,000.
Block sell.
Oh my gosh. It's been a while since we've seen a block sell like that, huh? I'm just going to move that down for good measure. That's a kind of an interesting setup because you had the really, really big sell just above the low, and now they're doing a level break setup here to try and hit 26. But I mean, we're having good downtrend, so I wouldn't say that it doesn't have an okay probability, but it's a little questionable, I think. Because it's not, I don't know, it's kind of churny. It's kind of churny, and like yesterday when they fell through, they just fell through, you know? And today there's so much absorption down on this. You know, I bet if we look at this, yeah, you can see absorption by the buyers this whole way down. But the level 2 is still very negative. Oh wait, which one is which? I think that this one is the absorption. And this one is the level 2.
YouTube, algo lover, Seth, when they bounced up off this level twice, they did so to sell from higher, better prices winking face.
Yeah. No, totally they did. Well, I was a little frustrated because I took a trade on the news and I saw a good price and they went through it. They almost hit my stop, but they never triggered it. But I think you're probably right that that move up and all of this upticking was just so that they could sell more. Okay, they're gonna hit it now this time. You definitely had people that went short at 26 half. Looking for, expecting a break. You're not getting a lot of orders selling into 26 though. But if it does it, it might be really quick. Okay, few orders hitting it now. That's not what you
YouTube,
would.
Ace Trades, morning. Please say hi to Mrs. Ace, she is right here.
Oh, good morning, Mrs. Ace. It's a very nice of you to stop in and listen. So that's not what I would be expecting to see there. It's a little bit of a trickle and then them not taking it. If they're selling here at 26 half, they're very often they're gonna like pull it at 26 and hit it really hard and try and get 2 or 3 ticks out of it. That could mean that they're just they weren't quite ready and they want to sell more at 26.5. Well, they did 39.21. Overall, though, that's not quite what I want to see. Now, I'm not seeing overextension down here.
YouTube, algo lover, it's always that in the market, up to find sellers or down to find buyers. Thinking face.
Well, yeah. But there could be different reasons why they move up to find sellers or down to find buyers, right? It could be because there just was nobody willing to sell there. It could be because somebody put liquidity on it and boosted it up because they wanted to sell it. Could be just because it's their turn.
YouTube, algo lover, at Ace Trades and misses thumbs up.
Well, it'll be interesting to see here. I'm not necessarily getting a good read on the E-mini this morning. I would suspect that the equities would move up. But there's been a lot of rotation over there, so it's kind of hard for it to say that it's just going to go straight up or straight down, you know? But they're above the opening range, so all of the the keys that we look at seem to suggest that they could move up. But it's just kind of range bound in my signal that I kind of look for the increased activity in the E-mini. Don't have enough data to say.
YouTube, algo lover, ZN, if they knock out the bottom this time, then 129, 220 will trade okay hand.
You think so? It looks like we're getting a pullback for the moment. There was, when we first touched it down here, like around when we first touched the 27, there was some work in it, but that was like, let's see here. Oh no, the big one was at 26.5. The big ones were at 26.5. So it was half. This was the drop. Yes, I think so. Yeah. Drop to it down. Okay. So I think you have to read that one as the reason that happened was because of the big order and them going through it, which means that it could still reverse. Because if it was at 26.5 and you get, one or two ticks below it, and then the sellers might exhaust themselves and it reverse. And certainly we sold a lot through there too.
YouTube, Greg Orlovsky, would be nice to pop up to the LVN and hold before the open.
You mean 28? It's a little odd. I didn't really notice that, but
YouTube, algo lover, S above the ONL targets 2992.50. Only question is, do they offer a pullback before going or not? Thinking face.
you think it's going to go, huh?
YouTube, Greg Orlovsky, yes.
Yeah, Greg was talking about the 28. See, over in the E-mini, the problem I'm having with it is like, even if I think it's going to buy, I need to be able to find a spot where I can take the appropriate amount
YouTube,
of
Greg
risk.
Orlovsky, today is September 11th.
Yes. Yes, it is. Oh, there is a Treasury auction today. I forgot about that. Treasurydirect.gov. What is it? Upcoming auctions. The 11th.
YouTube, algo lover, folded hands.
I don't see one. I see 13-week and 26-week ones tomorrow, but I don't see one on the 11th.
YouTube, Greg Orlovsky, 30Y bond.
There's an auction in the 30-year? How come I don't see it? Oh, 29-year, 11th month, but oh, no, that's the 12th. That's tomorrow. And if I click on their link, well, Forex Factory is saying that there's a 1700 GMT sale of US 10-year notes. It's a 24 billion reopening incomes amidst the volatility in bonds. How come I don't see that on the Treasury Direct
YouTube,
website?
Greg Orlovsky, sorry 1 o'clock S10Y note.
Yeah, how come I don't see it in the Treasury Direct page? That changes things though, doesn't it? That changes things because when it's a treasury auction and we see these enormous iceberg orders in a certain place, those are often rate locks in anticipation of the auction that could significantly curtail price movement. In other words, they might not be able to move very far from here. They're still
YouTube,
selling
Greg
it, though.
Orlovsky, I see it in Econoday assuming they are correct.
Yeah, I just okay. Well, they just shot through another 5K bid at 26, and that's a new low. And if we go off of Algo Lover's prediction, he's saying that it's going to see 22. So here's the Treasury Direct website. You can see there's a 29-year, 11-month bond auction on the 12th. But I don't see anything, I don't see 11 anywhere in there. So the Treasury Direct website doesn't have it. It must be, it's something different. And then I want to do Forex Factory. On Forex Factory, I do see that's weird. That's really, really weird. So I'm pretty confident that it is happening, but it's not listed by Treasury Direct for some reason. That's really weird. It's almost always there, isn't it? Maybe, I don't know. I guess I never look for the 10 and 30 year because they're always on the calendar. See, we might see something where there's a really big icebergs on the bid, even though they go through them. Raj reaches out to Johnson about possible election non-aggression pact. New poll, Warren holds favorability edge on Biden among Democrats. From The Hill. That one is probably worth looking at because the polls that the Hill has been doing have really good crosstabs. Mm. So they're still going offered here. They're suggesting that they might make another new low, but it's not crazy or anything. Okay. So there, sure enough, there was an iceberg there again, and there's a big old bid at 25 that has been there for actually some time. What about over here? Just these numbers and stuff like that. Okay. I don't know. So I've definitely seen this sort of a thing before, and it can be really frustrating because I have no way of knowing if they're going to turn on a swing at any one particular spot because it always looks like, wow, that's a lot holding it on the bid, and then they plow through it. I mean, look at that. They just traded 5K through there at 25 like it was not like a hot knife through butter. Nothing went through a 24.5 yet. Okay, there. Now it trades. But it's frustrating to me because, after seeing a trend, a big iceberg is definitely something that I look to say maybe I should get out. And when it's iceberging at almost every price on the bid and they plow through it anyways, then that becomes useless, right? Should also note that we are getting some, you know, level 2 working the bid and offer. And when it happens, they still go down. I suspect though, I think I need to take it at 25 because that's 12, 8. Anytime that I try and get an extension beyond 8, it screws me over. So my that's what I'm supposed to do. I shouldn't have moved that action fact. Even though there's still a good chance 22, I think could totally happen. Let me see if I can explain why. Okay, took me out. Good job. Pat on the back. Maybe there's more in it.
YouTube, Lucas, alligator is right.
Book seems more balanced for a few minutes, but it happens and then it resumes. So, you mean he's right when he says it's not the classic ebb and flow? I'd have to agree with him. But today is not. I mean, can you? Here's the thing. Okay. Um, I'm not sure if I can sit down and I can say every time it's in the 3 years that I've been watching things, what's been going on in auction. I think that I would need to go and look at the time period when
YouTube,
after
Lucas, methodical pressure.
yeah after Donald Trump got elected, where it really went down. But um, if you look at the chart, you'll know that when treasuries are buying and like they're really moving up, it has very often happened around the end, beginning of the month time period. So we know that there is people buy treasury futures to reload their inventory for the month, and that causes buying on the end in the first day of the month, right? We also know that auctions tend to mean up action. Okay. So, can we think of a time when we were having an auction day and they sold down? And I can't think of very many, but I can recall at least one where they sold down quite a bit on that day. And so I think what we're seeing is that there's an auction, and so people are putting rate locks in on there, but then there are some other people, probably either a hedge fund just outright taking a position short, or people puking. So even though there are these rate lock guys, and normally those icebergs would just be tremendous and the market would never be able to go through them, today, because of the strength of the sell, we have a unique situation where they can go through. And so that's why we get this sort of a thing where there's going to be huge icebergs on the bids, but they don't matter. We
YouTube,
just go
Lucas,
through.
you say buy every auction and hold, you will come out ahead overall?
Yes. Overall, yes. Especially if you like buy right after the auction, because there's usually a little bit of a sell going into it. It kind of depends on what the tail is, which is to say the difference between. I think when they say tail, I think what they mean is the difference between what the market yield was in the futures versus what the auction yield came out to be. Bigger that it is, the more that people have to adjust. Because that's what they're hedging against, right? So they sit down and they say, I think that it's going to be higher than, or it's going to be lower than 3. And if it is lower than 3, then I need to hedge myself against that. So, yeah. At that point they can buy a ton of futures, because even though they're going to lose money on the future, they're making money on their auction bid that they have put out, and so they're just hedged against the risk. That's why I don't completely understand, because I don't completely understand the auction. I would really like to go and like see one and talk to the people that do that to try and understand a bit more about how the process works and how they hedge themselves for it. But that's just kind of my own what I've surmised on my own It's very, very common on auction days to see huge iceberg orders. Very, very common. And I mean, like, although we haven't seen it here, I mean, the sort of thing that I've seen, I remember the first time I ever noticed it, there was a 10K bid and they weren't able to get through it. I was like, wow, 10K, that's huge, right? But the biggest I think I saw a 20K one at one point. And I've certainly seen them where they'll be like 7K and then they'll come up and then they'll come back down and it's another 7K and they'll do that a couple of times. Anyways, but today is clearly different because of the degree of sell that we've had. Well, we got at least one tick up, so I only took that because it was +8, but there's another good uptick. This September 11th, never forget that after tragedy, the government tries to sell you snake oil cures because there's no public as gullible as a frightened one. Stexenhammer 666. Well, he's right, but today is probably not the day to be saying that, dude. Mohammed El Rain can think of others that were a lot more pivotal matters as it speaks directly to the key issue of the ECB declining, if not negative, effectiveness in contributing to good economic outcomes. And the legacy Draghi leaves behind for Lagarde RE risks of financial instability ahead. Strongly worded Financial Times editorial on what ECB President Draghi must deliver. While I understand, but have concerns why it's pushing Draghi hard to provide all of the support he can, I'm surprised that they
YouTube
ranked
live
tomorrow's meeting
action on
among the most
Bloomberg. They
important
just
in an
said they
8-year
expect the
tenure.
10-year to go lower.
On Bloomberg, they just said that they expected to go lower, huh? Some big clips went through on the offer. Hit or miss big says that 24 is a high of a balance area. Markets have been driving for it since yesterday. Interesting. On a weekly scale. Interesting. That doesn't necessarily contradict what Algo Lover was saying earlier either, does it? Because if he's saying the target is 22, you know, 22 would be a spot where you would certainly be looking to get out of a trade, if not outright reverse. And if it stopped, 4 ticks short of that, that's not, that's not crazy or anything like that, right? Hmm. The Nicey. We will observe a minute of silence at 9:20 Eastern Time. Oh, which was already happened. Oops. Funny. That's kind of like almost exactly where it turned. I never looked at my Bitcoin chart, but there was some weird action yesterday, right? Big move up, and then they sold back down through again. And then this move up is not going anywhere. And there is a little bit of a buy. See, if we took it when we were saying about maybe buying it, it was already 29.82, so it has not moved anywhere. So that's where my problem is I feel like I would like to buy the E-mini, but I would need something that would give me like a spot to say that, you know, I have acceptable risk and that it's unlikely to go through my risk. But with it kind of just sitting here in the middle, um, it could go 8 to 16 ticks either direction and then still turn. Of course, it doesn't really matter now because the E-mini is about to open, but I'm glad that I just sat on it. Well, let's figure out how to preg match a URL.
YouTube Ace Trades, me too.
Ace didn't take a trade and he's glad that he didn't. Yeah, because it really would have just sat there and you got nothing. Would have got nothing.
YouTube Nadir Ninu test.
Was that in the stream channel? Oh, no, that was on YouTube. Okay, here they go. Pretty mixed impulse on the start. A little bit of a sell, but they bought it up. Okay. Like it's done for many days now. The cumulative delta on the open sells. Okay, They sold pretty hard there, in fact. Wow. Treasuries really came back up, huh? Could see 13 here now, says just being me. Page, audio encoding. Okay, I guess they don't have one. So I do have to detect it on the node side. Another uptick. The crazy thing is, on the offers, not very big icebergs, is there? Look at that. Some of the guys in our interest rates channel are saying that they think it could go to 130 even, which is all the way up here. It's possible because it's not far from where it's traded before today, but I don't know. I kind of feel like uh, it's moving a little bit further than the drop in the E-mini justifies at the moment. But that could just be a clue
YouTube
that
live action. The
ES
euro
is
is
going to go
really dumping
further.
ahead of ECB.
The euro is really dumping ahead of ECB, huh? Oh, yeah, that's good. Catch. Really dumping. That's a really good catch, live action. They're reading the names of the 9/11 victims over at Ground Zero. So this means what I'm hearing over at the ECB though is that they're going to be more hawkish than originally anticipated, right? I don't completely understand what's going on over there. I don't feel like I've gotten all of the news stories to completely understand why they're doing what they're doing. Other than seeing that, bonds are moving down. That's obviously hawkish. So why would hawkish affect the currency?
YouTube Ace trades, and I'd just like to add that Islam is a shithole religion.
Careful, Ace. We don't want to be sharing Islamophobic things on the channel. YouTube will get upset. YouTube will get upset. The American Defamation League will label you as a hate group. That's you can't say things like that. He's right, but you can't say that, apparently. The thought police will come and get you. I guess if I thought it through again, I think that when you consider, I think one of the things that we don't think about is that Islam is not like the Catholic Church, as far as I understand it, at least. It's much more like, a Baptist church, where if some guy decides to become an imam and goes through the education that's required
YouTube
and
Ace
everything like
trades.
that,
I hate harmful beliefs.
that he can go and start his own mosque, and what he teaches at his mosque might be different from what they teach at another mosque. So I go in and I can say, Well, what I read in the um, what is it even called? The Quran. What I my reading of the Quran is that it's has many harmful beliefs for sure. Some individual person might read those passages differently or think it's something completely different or just ignore them consciously. And so I don't think that it would ever be appropriate to say that, like, a religion as a whole, on the level of that, I think it would be incorrect to say that Islam as a whole is a harmful belief religion, because within Islam, there's going to be so many differences of opinion. But I do think that the vast, vast majority of the beliefs that are held within the adherents of Islam are negative to society, in my opinion. But I can't sit down and generalize, so you have to go down and look at it on an individual basis and things like that. And that's where I always kind of say, if you want to get down to, like, what are my own personal opinions or beliefs, or I don't like to associate myself with movements, because then you're associated with whatever they say, and they might say something stupid. But there is one thing that I am willing to associate myself with, and that is the Constitution of the United States. And anybody that does not believe in the main essential tenets that are laid out in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, if you don't believe those things, then, and you don't want those to be things in America anymore, then I think that you are promoting something that is harmful to the United States. That's what I think. And that could include, if you think that there should be Sharia law in the United States contrary to the Constitution, then you're that's a harmful belief to the United States, I believe. And I think that if I go down with all of those disclaimers and everything like that, then we can sit down and we can say that we're properly criticizing a particular belief without generalizing, right? And without being racist or bigoted. Hmm? So, if anybody from the American Defamation League is listening, you can just shove it. Not that anybody here cares about that, but general rant, because it came up. Okay, so Alligator says, if you want pause, it went a tick through. It's kind of stopping here. I'm not sure I can say that that's it. Um, you know what we need to do? We need to open something here. We need to pull up the levels. Okay. So the opening range low is right there at 30. So if I get an overextension and I didn't never quite got a big one, but if I do get an overextension here around the 30 area, I think that I'm going to want to sell it. Also, even though we had this huge pushback up in the treasuries, the E-mini recovered its move. So now you kind of have to question if it was really ever about selling the E-mini or not. But there might be a second wave. So we should keep an eye on that. They're definitely uh, they're definitely flickering around a decent amount. And that was a much stronger offer that time at 30. in zero hedge, looking at the value versus momentum index, saying that there needs to be a unwinding of it, and saying that it hasn't gone far enough yet. Said it is that was that it? Okay, well 29.5 goes offer. Just pulling at 29. Just algorithmic pulling though. The way we have been seeing a little bit more institutional activity today than we did yesterday. Yesterday was really, really quiet. Today there's a decent amount. Well, I don't know if you were going to take this if you'd really want to sell into 29 or not. It's a little iffy. Especially since on the upside they didn't completely go crazy. And it was kind of an unwinding of the move that they had earlier.
YouTube, Ace Trades, look like the Amini is about to take a dive, but I'm just sitting on hands.
You think they're going to take another dive there? Tough call, but the treasuries are giving up on their long a little bit. I don't know. Like I'm looking at the chart here. I'm like, okay, this was good trend up, and then there was a gap, and then down, zipper, up, down. When I start to see gaps like that I think you should start to be suspicious because there was a gap up, actually a gap up again, and it's really starting to do it in the 5 year. So you're in a chop zone.
YouTube, Ace Trades, short 2,981.25, but I wouldn't suggest that trade.
Yeah. You're in a chop zone here, which means it doesn't mean that you can't take a short. But if you're going to take a short, you've got to be taking it at least 30 half. So if you sell into 29, the chances of it going 3 to 4 ticks against you are actually relatively high. No guarantee they could continue down through, but even here you can see they touched 28.5 and they ticked up. So I shouldn't touch it. And I suppose that you could have taken a reversal down in here, even though I don't know if that one was readable. I feel like I gotta need to take a winner, and I've been struggling, and I made a good read, and I should be happy with that. Mm.
YouTube, live action, I see you're using range bars. I read Paul Rotter now uses point and figure charts, very similar.
Really? Well, point and figure charts are really similar to. Those are the ones with like the X's and O's, right? I don't know. To me, I think I like the range bars.
YouTube, live action, yes.
Okay, yeah. I've found that the range bars help the most because it will show you price is stuck in a spot for a long time, and because it stays in that one bar, you get the cumulative activity. So if it sat here for a really, really long time and there was a lot of level 2 changes during that time, you would get one of these spikes. Or you would get one if it's just a ton of changes really, really quickly. And because I do a one range, I can see literally every time that it ticks and something traded into both sides, I get a bar. So you really know exactly what it's done. You know, because if you do 5-minute bars, you might not know. Like this whole thing might be 5-minute bar. And so in 5-minute bar, you'll see, okay, it just sat here. But on this one, I can see that, okay, yes, it just sat here, but it was in one of those zipper areas. And there was actually a decent amount of activity within that as well. So it became a reversal. Makes sense. I'm not sure you can trade off of that one, but it makes sense. Luke, I can't read this action. They press really hard on the downside, going through big bids constantly. I believe when that happens, it's not usual we see this type of reverse. I might be wrong, but I would have been looking to sell between 26, 27.5, and we went all the way up to 31. Am I missing something? Yes.
YouTube, live action. Speaking of zipper areas or balance, did you see how Axia Elite Trader scales in and out of these areas in volatility? Last video was wealth of information.
I'll try and watch that. Sometimes when I watch the Axia videos, I feel like I'm either seeing stuff that's like, no duh, or I don't know. I always look at an Axia video. Let me collect my thoughts here. I'll come into YouTube. I look through my subscriptions for the day, and I'll see the Axia video for that day, and I'll go, oh, that is totally about something that I'm interested in.
YouTube, live action. Agree.
Something that I've seen in markets. Maybe I can learn something about it. And so then I'll go and I'll watch the thing, and I'm like, oh, yep, that is absolutely exactly the thing that I've seen in markets that I've had trouble with. And so I watched the video and I'm like entranced and enthralled through the whole video. But then when I get to the end of the video, I still don't know how to trade it. That's how I feel like for most Axia videos, is like whatever the key piece of information that you want about how to deal with those kinds of area, they're always cutting out the key part of the education that you would be getting if you were paying for it or something. Or at least they try to leave you that impression, probably just to buy. And so may well be the case that you go and you buy the education and you still don't get it. But Yeah, I get that all the time. But I totally think, I personally do think that those zippers are distribution areas. Totally. Like somebody went short and then they wanted to get out, so they worked it back and forth like that so that they could get out. And when it goes back and forth in that area, and you can see the cumulative delta is you know marginally up through it. But the point is that there's no way for us to know what you did, because this can be so here's one that we got out, and here's another one where somebody distributed. But is it distribution, like are they getting out of a trade or are they getting into a trade? So like this could be somebody going short, and it's like almost impossible to know because of the way that they do it, because you could get something where one big trader is exiting and a bunch of smaller traders are trying to get short for another leg. But how do you know what that is? It's really hard to predict. There's one situation where I can predict it, and that is if it's in that distribution area long enough, then it's just gone quiet. And so the probability of it reversing at that point is extremely high. Okay, what did Hit Bigger Miss say in the Discord interest rate channels? They could not hit any more heavy bets, but technically market moved to a weekly balance. If there's high time frame players there, it's difficult to know until you see the
YouTube
reaction.
live action. Seth put up an S chart on one monitor and watch Elite Traders DOM along with his entries and exits.
Put an ES chart on one monitor and watch Elite Traders DOM. Who do you mean Elite Trader? You mean the guy in the Axia video that I'm supposed to watch today? Some big clips went in at 25 half. If they get traded above, those guys will likely pay up. No one of the offer wanted to stand in the way, in my view, until we punch 24 is up. Luke says, I guess now that I think of it, being an auction day, those icebergs make sense. I was thinking about it as a slow and methodical action, but I can see this type of reverse if the action was not that when account auction. Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting.
YouTube Lucas Axia has two parts. One is educational, where they train guys, and the other part is their elite traders, which are the core of Axia and where newcomers learn from, but seems they don't mix.
Oh, gotcha. So you're saying there is a video on the on their channel of one of their elite traders trading, and that I should watch it with the chart up, and I should be able to see how it distributed there. Let's see if we can find them. Let's see, just to make sure which video we're talking about. Yeah. Subscriptions. Oh, there's a couple of comments overnight that I missed.
YouTube live action. Demetrius is the partner trader, elite trader from Axia, who shows his live account DOM where he takes down 100s of thousands.
So there's this, can you get in before a breakout? What does really good footprint action look like? $40 ticks in a minute in the blind. I don't know if I'm even seeing it. Maybe you should link me to the specific video and timestamp. His live account Dom, where he takes down hundreds of thousands. One of the things that's really interesting to me is when it starts trading and the Axia guys, they're like furiously clicking all over the place. Okay, so now that we've touched that 31 and we've come back 6, and I think you could potentially read this one as a reversal signal or as a signal. And now this might be a long signal, but it's really hard for me to tell, especially with the E-mini being so flaky right now. I think that I did good with my short and I made the trade that I wanted.
YouTube, Lucas, I can't read their executions on TT lol.
Yeah, well, yeah. So that's another weird thing about the Axia is though they have a certain way that they like to have their DOM set up.
YouTube, live action, he is a news trader.
So like I think that some of them actually are using the Jigsaw DOM, but they have it changed to read like the TT DOM. So it tells you the current trades, but only through one column. And I find that so incredibly confusing. I mean, I'm sure that if I watched it long enough, it would make sense to me, but I just don't understand why you would want to do it that way when you can split it out into 2 columns and see it both ways, you know? But whatever.
YouTube, live action, they use X-Trader Trader technologies.
No, I think it's more complicated than that, live action, because this option in here, I'll show you. I don't want to do it on my 10-year one. Let's do it on, well, let's do it in CB. Okay. So there is a thing right here. You can merge snapshot, I think it is. Except for that I don't have the snapshot one. Is it current trades? Current at ask. Price. There's also one in the order window. Yeah, right here. So it is in the volume profile, show current trade. Okay, and you see how now it shows 71 there. So that's what they do is they get rid of these 2 columns on the inside and they just show that. And it'll show you how much is traded there. That feature was put in specifically for them.
YouTube, Nadir Ninu, hi Ryan from Dubai.
Hey. Nice to see you. That was, we talked to you last week, wasn't it? Anyways, they put that in there specifically for Axie, and I don't know if it's the case that like they put that in there because they're having their trainees use Jigsaw, but most of their elite traders are using TT, or what the deal is. But yeah, that's the way it is. Okay, so they did take up. I guess my read is okay today. I think though that if I get 8, I really need to be sitting like I really need to see something really good to be taking more risk than that, because you got a really
YouTube,
good trade.
Lucas, I mean if I were firing 100,000s I would probably trust more TT. Jigsaw has some glitches that need fixing.
There are a couple of weird glitches in Jigsaw, isn't there? I don't think I've ever seen a glitch that mattered, but there was one. I haven't upgraded to the latest version, but there's this weird thing where um it'll miscount your profit and loss, and you'll be off by like $1 or something like that. It's really annoying. There's kinds of things like that. But in terms of like executing, flawless. Absolutely flawless. And stability. Oh my gosh. Did such a good job on that. Um, I don't really know. I mean, I've never tried the TT, so I don't think I understand the advantages of it other than the auto spreader. I know there's the auto spreader, but what else do they have that would make it worth the monthly fee and all that, you know? I don't know. Maybe if somebody paid me, I would be willing to try it out on the channel and make a review about it for them. Just saying, Patrick, if you're out there. Because I have a video about why I use Jigsaw and NinjaTrader, and I was trying to get a referral link, but uh, Pete hasn't been able to get back to me. He's it is not very good with the Skype. In fact, let's turn that on here and try it here. See the time frame. Like by the time I'm messaging him, apparently he's already gone. I thought that he sticks around for like the first little bit of the equities open, but apparently he doesn't. So it's always
YouTube,
like
live action. It's supposedly the fastest DOM. It also shows your place in the K, which is cool.
yeah. Well, this shows you your place in the queue too, right? Maybe theirs does it a different way. I don't know. I kind of feel like that. Well, it's kind of weird. So, like this thing that I've got right here, this histogram. This is something that I really think they could stick into this. They could make a histogram like this. It would be really useful to people. Um, or they could even stick it into in Jigsaw. They could even stick it into these gauge meters, right? Because the gauge meter, if I create one here, okay, for ZN, you'll notice that it's basically always at nothing for the treasuries because it's based on movement. And so if it doesn't move, it doesn't do anything. But what I see is there's a lot of level 2 activity. And if the gauge was showing me the level 2 activity, then it would be useful, just like it is here. So there's data that everybody's getting that if you know how to program, you can just organize it differently, right? Because there's like even with just this one thing, right? Okay, that's every level 2 change, but then there's like how big are they? How far away from the current bid and offer are they? You know, this sort of a thing, and you can even try and track them, so you can see if one leaves, does another one at a similar size get added somewhere else? There's all these sorts of things that you could potentially program out that might be really specific to a particular way that you want to trade, that it might not make sense for them to put into a platform. Although my particular thing, I think that probably they should, but I'm not going to share exactly how I make it because I think it's worth money. But I digress. There's those sorts of things like that. But then otherwise, what's the next innovation? I'm kind of starting to feel like that they've done the most with the data that we have. And that the next innovation, the innovation that I want to see is I want to see data that tells me who's who. I think there should be a law. You listening to Elizabeth? You're not going to be president, but you love these sorts of ideas. I think that Elizabeth Warren would love this idea. Maybe she could actually do something positive for the markets. There should be a law that every data feed should attach a trader to every lot. Every lot. That means whether it's a market order or a limit order. When I get fills, I should be able to see who was on each side of that fill. And then the technology would be aggregating all of those trades to calculate what everybody's position is. And that is the only way. That is the only way that the trading would truly be fair, is if you knew who you were trading with. Because then you would go down there and you would say, well, I just sold into an iceberg going to buy Goldman Sachs. Maybe I don't want to do that. You got what I mean? It'll never happen because it would put the big players would take away so much edge from the big players, right? Because then we would be able to see.
YouTube Ace Trades veto that. I want to run a dark pool if I want to.
Well, you could still run a dark pool. I'm just saying that every order that happens on the exchange, you have to know. You could still go and do a transaction with somebody else somewhere else. I suppose that you could do it with a dark pool at that point. You could say, you could buy a bunch of stuff and then you could sell it on the dark pool, and then somebody else would have a position and then they could come back out onto the exchange and sell it. And there could still be that sort of a thing. But I just think that you should be able to see who you're trading against, because that would probably significantly change whether or not you wanted to trade against them. Okay, well, there was a little bit of a limit move there. Crazy.
YouTube Ace Trades, just kidding. I don't care whose money I am taking.
I don't care whose money I'm taking. It would tell you you got to admit though, it would tell us a lot of information, right?
Twitch, Dojo 2022. Locals used to be able to see paper in the pits.
Ding ding, exactly, Dojo. This is exactly what I'm talking about. See, what we do, that's the big difference between what we do on the computer today and what they did in the pits. It's like if I'm sitting here and I see a 5K order, if it has to tell me everybody, then I could see that, that 5K order is put out by a high frequency trader who's not reliable. Nobody is ever going to trust that order again.
YouTube Ace Trades, maybe too much information. I don't need one more thing to look at.
Yeah. It would almost be like, that's the thing. Well, think of it. Here's another way of thinking about it. Think about the thing that's going on in the cryptocurrency exchanges. See, because they're the exchange, they know what everybody's position is, and they know like exactly where they got long from. That's another key point, right? So they can calculate exactly how far they have to move it to get people to stop out. And it is completely unfair, right? They are literally just the people trading on those exchanges right now with margin. They are basically just stealing from them, because it doesn't matter which way you take it. They will basically, this is what you do is you have the exchange, you let everybody get into their positions, you wait until there's a large enough position on there, you let the current cryptocurrency just sit there, and then when somebody finally has a big enough position to be worth going for, you calculate how much you need to buy or sell to move it, you move it up against them, and then as they're stopping out, you get out. Not fair. Totally not fair. But that's the kind of thing that you could do if you knew who was who. You could literally calculate their position. And it would be a big advantage. Well, I don't want to say advantage, but it would help equalize the playing field between the large players and the retail players. Because then we as retail players could say, hey, we're kind of close to this this 31.5 area, and there's this big player that got short there. And if it trades in there, we know for sure. I mean, here we can kind of extrapolate it and we can guess, but there we would know for sure that, hey, if it starts trading 31.5, that guy might have to start getting out. And they don't want you to know that, because then they know that the retail traders would start ganging up on them. And that's totally what would happen in the pits. Is they would see a guy come in, they could see the guys with the paper. He says be able to see paper, but they would actually watch the guy
YouTube,
get
live
off the
action.
phone and
There is
walk
a video
over.
on YouTube showing how they do that. If I find it again, I'll share.
Sure. They used to like watch if it was quiet, they would watch the people that they knew were big traders go over and pick up the phone, you know. And then if the guy put the phone down and started walking back towards the pit, they would start bidding it up, because they would be able to guess if the guy was buying or selling something, just because they knew who he was, you know. And that's another thing, is we could sit here and watch, but then if it was like, oh hey, the sovereign fund of China just sold something, maybe don't want to buy something if China's coming in and selling, right?
Twitch Dojo 2022. Many years ago I calculated that it normally would only take notionally about $30 million to significantly move the SPUs. A drop in the bucket for the likes of Goldman, etc., especially since they have the lowest margin requirements and commissions.
Yeah, totally. 30 million to significantly move. Well, think about the flash crash, right? The guy he sold like 10,000 e-mini contracts or something like that. And that's what triggered it. It's not out of the question. Like it's something that this is something that I learned when I was at Goldman Sachs, for sure, right? Because remember, one of the things that I did was I managed a system. I didn't build or design it, but I was, you know, improving upon and adding new features for a risk control system. And the point of this risk control system was to notify clients of when they were using up their entire credit limit, and, you know, preventing any more trades from going through if they exceeded their credit limit. Basically the same thing as like if I go in and I try and take a trade in here and I don't have enough margin, and it tells me, you know, nope, we're not going to put your order through because you don't have enough margin. It's the exact same kind of system, right? And the way that we did that was we would look at every trade that you would make, and we put them into an in-memory database and then calculate your position from that. That's how it worked. So I could literally go through and I could see the credit limit and the use and positions of every client that Goldman Sachs owns. Literally. It was like hundreds of billions of dollars, I think, right? I think that they were at that time, the publicly shared number was something like 3 trillion or something like that. And I think that nowadays they say that they're closer to 6 to 9. I could be wrong about that. But I mean, it's a ton of money, right? And you just look at like one client, right? We were being asked, you know, one of the things that was very common was somebody was going to do a big buy operation. And so because they were going to be buying that particular stock that day, they needed a larger credit limit, because you kind of have to like buy a little bit more than you want and then sell a little bit and all of this sort of a thing to get the price that you want. And so you need a little bit more credit limit to move things around to get it to what you need, right? But the amount that they were buying, you know, these were things where, normally maybe it was just like $10 million, but it was not uncommon to have, you know, billions. And that was just one person. That was just like one one hedge fund that none of us has ever heard of
YouTube
before.
live action. Funny story. Clearing desk got a 100 million sell order for the close that a floor trader got wind of and front ran. At the close, the guy called the desk to cancel the 100 milliliters order.
Oh, that's so bad. That's so bad. Oh, that's there might be something illegal about that. But a good story. But anyways, like the point is the amount of money that's out there when you look at like how much they could actually put into the market at any one given time, they could easily move anything out there, even the treasuries. The only thing with the treasuries is that there are so many people like that in there that if any one person started to move it like that, there would probably be other people that would be willing to take it the other way. So it would be a really foolish thing to try and do. But and that's kind of was the point was when I talked to the traders, they would say stuff like they were showing to me how I've told this story before, but this girl, she had a macro key and her macro key was broken and she was showing how you could like hold control and then every action that you did was queued up. So she could like queue up to pull some of the liquidity that she had sitting here at 30, let's say. Like she could sit down and say, I want to pull 500 of what I'm bidding at 30 and then sell the rest and then pull some of the liquidity that I have at 30 to try and get it to move. And she would show how that would happen, how she would do that and how it didn't work out for her all the time. But it worked that time. It was like being flaky. She was like, oh, maybe it works, maybe nothing's wrong. But anyways, she was just one person that could do that. But she said, and she showed me how to do it. And she's like, well, it's okay, but we're not supposed to do that unless we have to. Does that make sense? The institutional traders, at least, they're not pulling a trick like that unless it's necessary for them to get the trade that they need. Unless it's necessary to fill the client's order or whatever the deal is, right? So there's all of these people out there. That's the thing that's insane about it, is there's all of these people out there that absolutely have the ability to move the market any way that they want, but they just don't because it's foolish. Fiverr Forever says took long on the bond. Well, I'm glad that I never took a short in here, huh? It might be giving us one here now, though. It's kind of interesting that they're continuing to move up, even though what kind of volume imbalance do we get from all of that?
Twitch, Dojo 2022. Soros was able to take down the bow with leverage.
Totally. The Bank of England with leverage. Yeah, totally. I mean, that's kind of the thing, though, is that it's like a super high risk operation, you know? Like, can you imagine if everybody in the market understood what was going on at the time and decided to fight Soros on it? You know, they would certainly win if they knew that's what was going on. So, and if you're a smaller person, there's bigger fish out there still. So it's when you're doing that sort of a thing, it's a high risk reward sort of a play. So you don't just up and do it, generally speaking. Well, I mean, think about it in here. Like we usually don't see the really crazy spoofs and stuff unless there's something significant happening. Okay, so probably I should at least generate my charts and stuff here. Would like to leave a good time because the past few days I've been able to make it in on time, but I felt like I was a little bit rushed. So, I'm starting to get a little bit concerned about Bitcoin. Like, I don't tell you absolutely everything that I see in the action because I save a lot of that for my notes that I post every day on the Patreon. So, for those of you guys, if you haven't checked it out and you're interested in cryptocurrencies at all, I would head over to the Patreon, patreon.com/speculatorseth. Link should be in the video description below. You can go and I post these charts. Subscribers get them every day. And I include a chart and my overall read of what happened, So if we moved up or down, and what are the possible reasons for why, and what are some possible technical and order flow things that we're seeing that might give us a hint as to what the next impulse is. Because the thing is I have like a longer term signal, but even if you get the longer term signal, it can continue to move for quite a while. So you still have to figure out where you want to position yourself once you get to a spot, right? Anyways, I post that every day, so check that out. And even if you're not interested in cryptocurrencies and you just want to help the channel out, you can go and contribute $5 a month. It helps. And we've been putting that money back into the channel. So still a lot of things that we could do and improve if we had a little bit more cash. So, although I don't know, kind of starting to wonder. I would like to be able to eventually use that for like a big, what I really should be doing is I should be managing my own cryptocurrency fund, right? That's what I think, this thing should be done with, but whatever. Whatever. But so the whole point of that was, so I'm not going to go into all of the details, but what I see in Bitcoin is really concerning to me. And I'm starting to wonder that if the doomsday scenario that I think is possible happens, I'm not sure that anybody in the cryptocurrency sphere would be able to survive. Okay, so let's type some notes here.
YouTube, Lucas, so if auction then buy and hold, huh?
So if auction, then buy and hold, huh? Yeah. I mean, it's more complicated than that. And I would certainly direct you to go and find the numbers on it. If you go into Discord, I think that we have posted it in the interest rates channel, and we've also posted it in um, the econ and education channel. If you just search for auction, eventually you'll find it. There's a PDF, and somebody did a academic study on it where they found that auction, there tends to be a little bit of selling um, going directly into the auction, and then afterwards they tend to buy, and that overall for the day they tend to buy on auction days. So, um, but like I said, then you have to get into the reasons why and all of those sorts of things, which I already discussed. Um, but yeah, that's the tendency for auction days. That's the tendency. It's not a guaranteed trade or anything like that, but that's the tendency.
YouTube, Lucas, it would have worked out today. I just was scared to buy at lows given yesterday's sell.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that the sell was a really great trade too, right? I mean, I got 8 out of it at least. This reversal, I mean, I could have taken that, I suppose. But given the way that they were selling at it, yeah, I mean, you've got to be really gutsy to be buying into that, you know? Because how can you know that any price is going to hold? It's hard to know, you know. You'd have to have something else, some sort of longer term time frame signal that said something about this 24 that said that it was a really high probability of flipping in that particular location. And then even after that, when we got here into the 29, to go long in that, I think is even harder.
YouTube, Lucas, yay lol.
Yeah. And the thing is when I've done this on auction days, you know, like I've taken a long and gotten like 2 to 4 ticks on it, you know. It's not like, you know, I wouldn't come into it with the thought of, okay, today was an auction day, so even though they're selling super hard, I still want to buy, you know, for, you know, I don't think that it would have worked today, obviously, but I'm not so sure that that would work very well every day, you know. The thing is that you got to keep in mind that almost everybody that really trades the treasuries seriously knows that there's a tendency on auction days, and at the end of the month is another good example, right? And so they're absolutely play that game where like it's going to move up, but they do everything they can to try and get you to buy at the wrong spot so they can stop you out. You could see them doing that in here, in fact. You know, they would have tried to get you to buy at 31. Would have tried to get you to sell at 28. Remember when I was saying, well, they might go lower, but because you're in a chop zone, it's a really bad trade. And then of course they moved up 4, and then they moved back down 4, right? They were just yanking you around. And if you had taken a trade almost anywhere within there, except for at the very end, you very likely would have not held it. It sucks, right?
YouTube, Lucas, yup. Are you showing up earlier tomorrow for ECB?
Um, Probably not. Um, because I mean the thing is I'm not one. I don't really understand the ECB nearly as well. But then if let me see here, I guess I should look here. Oh, hey, Peter actually responded. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, did I not save this? Oh, that was from yesterday. Sorry, hold on. I just totally lost my train of thought on everything. Okay, I was going to Forex Factory tomorrow. is Thursday, and the monetary policy statement is at 5:45. Yeah, there's no way. I, I just can't wake up that early. But the thing is then we have the press conference at 6:30, which is just as good. I'm probably not going to take a whole lot of trades tomorrow, but we'll watch that. But it's not kind of action that I can trade, so I don't think that I should wake up early for it. Okay, so let's check this. What you just said here. Oh, cool.
YouTube, Lucas, that's okay, we have Alligator to represent us on ECB.
Yeah, that's a good point. You go into Discord, he definitely understands what's going on over there for sure. He is a smart guy. I tell you what. We are so lucky to have him. He's always been on the ball, understands what's going on. He's there every day. So cool. So I can put that video out on Monday. I'm excited. I'm super excited. We can give you guys this thing. I think I've tested it long enough that I feel comfortable giving it to you. Although I'm going to have to change it up because right now I'm using some things that I'm using some indicators that not everybody's going to have. So I'm going to need to take some lines out just to say go and add lizard indicators if you want it or something like that. But maybe once we get that out, maybe some other guys will come in and put stuff. And we'll put it in the downloads channel. So you guys can download it there. Tons of good stuff that I think we're going to come out. So I think this will be a good thing for the community in general. I'm excited about it. Cool. All right. So I think that's about it. I did say I want to get going earlier, so I've already yapped too long. Yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Also, another thing is that we got a debate tomorrow, right? So I am probably going to stream tomorrow night for the debate, even though, to be honest, I've really lost interest in the debates. This next one, it should be really critical and important because they're all going to be together, is my understanding. But the last ones are just so boring. Oh my gosh. Well, I hope that we get some movement tomorrow. Anyways, so that's what we got going on. Super cool. Happy. I will see you guys tomorrow. And in the meantime, stay